Alright, so today we're going to be talking about something rather serious. Now, most of what I'm going to be doing here, because this is just a discussion, okay? The things I'm going to be talking about are all third-party accounts. Nothing is set in stone. Nothing I say here, okay? I don't know what here is true and what is false because it's all third-party accounts. It's all vague. So don't jump to conclusions and send death threats. Don't go harass people. Let's have this discussion. And at the end, if you could post a comment, that would be great. Today, I'm here to talk about the Skyrim Special Edition. Something I talked about last week. Very important. We need to go over this again in more detail. Remember when I talked about the mod author Tinvok talking with dragons? How he was just kind of going off the deep end, saying I can't allow MxR to review my mod and things like that. He's backpedaled. He's edited his article. He's posted up a rebuttal. And my opinion on the whole situation is don't judge this guy too harshly. I don't think he knows how to interact with people very well. And I think that you should try his mod out and disregard both his articles, because with the follow-up article, putting that into context, it's just a bunch of rambling that doesn't really go anywhere. So that Tinvok talking with dragons thing, just ignore that. Now, on to the main topic, which oddly enough was the minor topic of last video. Last video I devoted the first 5 minutes or so to talking about the whole floating market fiasco. The floating market is a mod that is currently hidden on the Nexus at the time of this video. So in this case, the alleged mod author, the person who gathered together all these other mods, by permission of those mod makers, by the way, for use in a single package. This package was known as the floating market. This is a screenshot from the video that MxR had striked and had taken down. And yes, there are copies of this video floating around the internet because nothing on the internet ever dies. But the reason I didn't talk about this, the main reason I didn't discuss any of this at all, is because when you go back to the Nexus page, specifically over here, you see the files hidden. I didn't have a lot of information. Even with the various Reddit threads that were going on between the different mod authors and the different mod users and different YouTubers, there was a lot of discussion going on, but it was restricted mostly to the subreddit. And the reason it was restricted to the subreddit and not any other place is because, well, most people, most mod users don't even understand what's going on. They just heard some vague comments by MxR, and I thought I would take the time to put some of those into context as far as we know. Now, keep in mind, a lot of this video is speculative and based on what I have found, so obviously take it with a grain of salt, but what I found, I feel it's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So, what happened, from what I could piece together, is the author of the floating market, the alleged author, I should say, went ahead and posted a message to MxR. We assume that she used the YouTube private message feature, which, if you have a channel as big as mine, private messages get lost all the time. It's a very bad way to try to contact me, which is sad because, you know, it's always good to be able to hear from fans and whatnot. I really enjoy that. Unfortunately, it's very easy for stuff to get lost in the spam filter, for stuff to get held for review if it contains, say, specific words. And of course, then it just might get buried under a bunch of other people's messages. Now, when I say a channel my size gets inundated with messages, that's kind of telling of MxR's situation, where he gets massive amounts of messages. If anything, I would say if he wanted to keep on top of communication, he should probably employ someone, perhaps his girlfriend, to actually act as a communicator for his channel, because it reaches a point in anyone's, I don't want to say career, but anytime you have an escalating business, eventually the communications portion of the business outstrips the actual work itself. And you'll find that, like in the case of the guy who runs the Nexus, for instance, nexusmods.com, he actually had to hire someone to handle communication with mod authors full time. And now they're looking for another position, I hear. At least that's what I've been told. They're looking for a third person to act as an intermediary and filter some of this stuff, because now the go-to person for talking to mod authors is inundated themselves and can't actually fulfill their job. It's that demanding. The Nexus actually needs a staff, and that's amazing. MxR needs a staff if he wants to communicate with people on a professional level. And I need a staff, but I can't afford to pay one. So that's a problem unto itself. The point is, though, that the mod author supposedly contacted MxR about this particular goings-on. And MxR didn't respond, so the mod author sent a takedown strike. MxR sent out a counterclaim. For those of you who don't know, a counterclaim is just simply a, hey, I would like you to review this, and if you don't review it, it's automatically going to go up, but you can totally reaffirm that this is yours. I just want you to check, make sure you don't go, oh, my bad, this is, this is a counterclaim. So, after putting up the counterclaim, the mod author reinstated the takedown strike on the video. After reinstating the takedown strike, MxR sent an appeal. Now, you have to understand the way an appeal works. An appeal will actually automatically put up the video if it's not responded to. The person claiming the video needs to come back with a confirmation that they are willing to see this person in court in order to keep the video down. From what I've been told, because there is no confirmation on any of this, this is all very vague, and there are statements that were made in the private mod authors forum on the Nexus, and there are statements that were made on Reddit, none of which are entirely proof of anything. But based on what we've heard, not only did this particular mod author go and seek legal counsel, according to what we've heard, but also they went ahead and called for an injunction on MxR's channel. For those of you who don't know, an injunction is a legal tool by which you prevent someone from doing something in order to make the case work, or to prevent additional harm from being done during a case. In this case, MxR was being given an injunction against his channel, meaning that it would be, for all intents and purposes, shut down. He wouldn't be allowed to post anything to it. That's where that video came up where they said, oh, your channel's going to be shut down for a year, so on and so forth. That's because of the injunction. Now, because his YouTube channel is his livelihood, he could have fought the injunction and possibly even won it. However, his channel would have likely been down for maybe a week, maybe a month, somewhere in that time. And MxR, quite frankly, based on some of his other videos on his side channel, may not be in the financial position to do that, considering he's moved, he's got brand new furniture, he's, finally settled down with his girlfriend. It's awe-inspiring to see, a young guy getting on with his life and all that stuff, but he made himself financially vulnerable, it looks like. And the mod author took advantage of that by threatening an injunction on his channel, essentially cutting off his ability to defend himself legally and pay for legal counsel. Madness, you bet. Now, I personally find this very scummy. I believe if MxR had legal counsel available to him at the time, he probably could have fought it and had the injunction overturned. And if I were in his boots, which, you know, this is armchair lawyering, this is something you do not want to take as legal advice. This is just me being like, if I were in his position, I would countersue the shit out of the mod author. I would probably seek triple damages as a punitive way of just saying, hey, you don't want to ever do anything like this ever again. My point, however, is according to what we've heard, a lawsuit began. An actual lawsuit, not just, oh, grumble, grumble, you know, intention to do this or intention to do that. So this part is important because a huge chunk of the problems that MxR has had spring from the installation of the floating market. And no, nothing on the internet ever dies. You know, once you give out a copy for distribution, that copy is out for distribution. You know, it has been distributed to the people who were interested parties. I never actually hit the install button, but hey, let's have a look here to double click it. So by installing this mod for the Skyrim Special Edition, you agree that you will not redistribute it or its assets under any circumstances, including by not limited to personal website, Steam Workshop, Bethesda.net, any foreign website, or YouTube. Now I am broadcasting the likeness of the assets here within this video for the purposes of review and satire. Now, no matter what this says, in most countries, including the United States, and including in the courts of California. Yeah, I'm staring at the camera right now. That fair use doctrine allows for review or satire. I'm reviewing this whole situation here, not necessarily the product at hand, but fair use is all about using the bare minimum of the content in order to get the point across. Notice that I'm only using one frame instead of a video. But the standard is still there. You know, MxR believed that for his showcase, he needed to show off, you know, about 2 to 3 minutes of the mod. I only need to show one screenshot because I'm not really discussing the mod, I'm discussing the video in which the mod took place. Note that I never agreed to this. It's very interesting because I'm not actually reviewing the mod. Very funny, right? Either way, let's continue on with this. YouTube videos are not allowed for showcasing. Showcasing. That is the key word here. What is a showcase versus a review? And this is something that would have, had the MxR case actually gone through court, this would be a question. What is a showcase versus what is a review? And do you have to be overly critical of something in order to review it? Or is showcasing unto itself a form of review? I would be interested in seeing the answer to that. Is it worth a legal battle to find out that answer? Maybe. But, moving on. Please see mod page for details. This acts as a durable license agreement. If I were to click finish, which I have no intention of doing, then I would be, in theory, bound to this license agreement. And if I violated the terms therein, I could be taken to court for those. Note that once in court, you will find that sections of a license agreement, or a EULA, which is a user-end license agreement, will be very often stricken in court. They will remove portions of a contract or a license that the author does not have the legal right to impose. This has happened with various software products, and you'll find that in the EU at least, most EULAs, like a vast majority of them, are actually rendered toothless. Now, this particular license agreement, now you'll notice something about contracts. Every contract can be negotiated, except for the ones that can't. The ones that can't are scrutinized especially hard in court, because if I want to use this mod and I want to click finish, I can't actually use the software without clicking finish. If I click cancel, it will not install the mod, meaning that I don't actually have a choice. If I want to use the product, I have to agree to the contract. There is no meeting of the minds here, and as a result, it is scrutinized much harder because it's imposing things that cannot be negotiated. The legal term for this is a contract under duress. It's been proven, absolutely proven, that Supreme Court justices themselves have been guilty of not reading EULAs. They have admitted it openly. This makes EULAs very, very tenuous in court. This itself probably wouldn't stand because MxR's showcases could be interpreted as reviews, and the reviews are a right under fair use doctrine, which is an affirmative defense. Keep that in mind. An affirmative defense is something you use in court to protect yourself, to either mitigate or eliminate any litigation pointed at you that is protected under the legal doctrine that is fair use. It's used to defend yourself in court. And I think MxR could have defended himself, but we wouldn't know unless he tried. Now, unfortunately for us, and I say unfortunately for us because this is a bad situation, MxR agreed to settle out of court, mostly because of the injunction against his channel. I don't know if MxR had counsel present. I would think that counsel would have told him that the author's attempt at allegedly giving him 16 counts of misuse of assets, using assets that don't belong to him, would probably get the mod author in some serious legal trouble. What do I mean? Well, according to what we've heard, part of the lawsuit was 16 counts of misusing assets that don't belong to him. Basically stolen assets. The mod author herself does not actually have legal ownership of assets contained within the mod. She was using those assets under permission. Permission acting as an agreement, but not a transfer of ownership. Meaning those 16 counts are were probably frivolous. Not sounding great so far, is it? So, a license agreement that probably wouldn't hold up in court, followed by a set of counts of stolen assets that don't even belong to the person who's claiming they're stolen. No, I personally think, at least in my very limited opinion, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. Everything in this video is not legal advice, holy shit. But I'm almost certain this case would have ended spectacularly in favor of MxR. The reason I say it's unfortunate is because now we have a modding community that has always been divided between parlor modding and cathedral modding. Now, I understand parlor modding. Parlor modding is basically, this mod belongs to me, it is mine, I can authorize its distribution, but I control it. And I understand that because as I've written things, I want those things to be controlled by me. Well, turns out most of the things I've written were under the employ of another person or commissioned by another person, so they don't belong to me. So when I write something for myself, which is not commissioned, I want to have full ownership of it. I do not want other people saying, hey, you put this part out for free, so we own it. It's community now. No, I understand where you're coming from. I don't want people to suddenly claim ownership over the stuff I labored to write. So in that sense, parlor modding makes sense, especially when it's part of your portfolio. However, cathedral modding is for the greater good. People who selflessly make mods. People who just want to make the mods for them to enjoy and for other people to enjoy. And to that end, I have to say, it's great. It's great that you exist, and I'm so happy to have mod authors who will just community source their stuff. But both sides of the spectrum, the community has already been divided this whole time. And why I'm saying this is unfortunate is this has emboldened the parlor modding sub-faction to where they want to control every aspect of the mod, including if it's reviewed or not, which isn't their legal right. No product. None. That's like people who make a blender and saying that this blender technology is ours. You may have one of the blenders, but you're licensing its use. You cannot review this blender. And when someone puts up a review, they strike the review. This is our blender. It's our proprietary technology. You can't have it. That's not the way things work. Similarly to software, video games. You can't tell a major review site they can't review your game. I mean, you can, but ultimately a court's going to side with the consumers for the fair use doctrine. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, even if it was a playthrough, that's protected. That's legally ambiguous right now. We want to use the word transformative when we talk about whether something is fair use or not. But the reality is that complete playthroughs of games, we have no expectation, at least within the law. I know that your average Let's Player has an expectation, but legally, there is no legal expectation that an entire playthrough of a game is protected and transformative enough. So channels like the Game Grumps, for instance, they're in a legal gray zone right now. And until we get an actual court case ruling whether or not Let's Plays are transformative enough, if they are actually fair use, we won't know. And legal doctrine is a powerful thing. Now, in this particular case with MxR, he went ahead and he settled out of court. I've been told that a judge signed off on their agreement, meaning that it's legally binding, and MxR won't review any more of her mods without permission. It's unfortunate, but that's the result. Now, you may be wondering, if the judge allowed the case to go forward, does that mean the case is valid? What happens is there's an extremely low bar, a minimum level of expectation that you have to clear in order for a case to be able to go to court. You can't, I mean, you can sue anyone for any reason, but very likely, unless you have a certain level of evidence that some wrongdoing has occurred, you probably will not actually get to court. The judge will look at it and throw it out. In this case, as I've said, we need to define, are showcases actually reviews? Number one. Number two, does he have the legal right to review those assets? And that's really the linchpin of this whole thing, is what is a showcase versus what is a review. There's also the claims of stolen assets, which need to be proven or disproven. But the fact is those assets exist, and those assets are shown in MxR's video, meaning that the minimum level of expectation in order to have a case is set. Now, the loser of the case would have to pay legal fees, most likely, and it would just be a pain in the ass all around. But my point is that the case had merit enough to be heard. And then in my limited personal opinion, which is not legal advice, would be disastrous for the mod author. So at this point you may be wondering, why did I even make this video? Why am I talking about this when it's been a month or two since this all went down? Why would I do this? This right here needs to be consumed by the mod using public. Everyone needs to know that this particular mod author allegedly created this mod, and that this mod contains this license agreement, meaning that they're trying to squelch review. Something that, in my opinion, they don't have the legal right to do. So, as far as I imagine, illegal at worst, horribly scummy at best. Yeah, not pleased with this situation. Now, there's been some questions lately, such as, what is the author of the Nexus going to do about this? Having a mod author who's suing a reviewer, having the mod community tear itself apart. Well, the author of the Nexus has decided to do nothing. The modder-only forums on the Nexus, as far as I know, are still being used to discuss these issues. And there's a good reason. The mod authors are the product that he's trying to sell. He's not selling the mods to you. You are a catalyst. You come to get the mods. But you wouldn't come to the Nexus if the Nexus didn't have those mods. In other words, the creator of the Nexus is cultivating his own supply. It's like he's growing things. He's growing mods by helping his mod authors. Now, you may be asking, if the mod authors and the mods by extension are his products, who are his clients? Well, that would be his advertisers. Whenever you see a Nexus advertisement, that's where the actual money is going to. Whenever you see a Nexus advertisement, those advertisers are the clients that he is catering to. The users will come as long as the mods are here. It is in the Nexus authors' best interest to keep the mod authors happy. That's why the Nexus is so strict about anyone speaking out about flaws in a mod or any kind of problems with a mod. Because if mod authors are unhappy, they might go somewhere else. They might go to Bethesda.net. They might go to a private third-party website. They might get something, I don't know, like a third-party application that automatically installs mods and doesn't require that you go to the Nexus. Maybe something like that is perhaps in development right now, and the author of the Nexus is fervently against it. We'll be talking about the mod picker application another day. But for right now, it's important to understand that, we sometimes say that the Nexus is a safe space for modders, and it's filled with entitled, bratty people. Yes, it is. Now, there are a lot of great mod authors on the Nexus. I love the Nexus as a concept. It's very convenient, but at the same time, we understand that the culture that prevents proper criticism produces weak-willed individuals. So when a mod actually gets criticized, people have a tendency to perhaps flip their shit. How dare you criticize a free product? Yeah, criticism makes things better. If not the actual mod that is made, then someone else will look at that criticism and go, maybe I could patch that mod. Or I could make a different mod that does that, except better. You know how many times that's been done? A lot. I can't count the number of times I've seen a criticism with a particular mod, and then a new variant on that mod would come out that's done so much better. So let's recap real quick. The Nexus's products are the mods, and by extension, the mod authors. Their clients are the advertisers, as well as anyone who pays into the Nexus as a membership. Everything else is irrelevant. The Nexus is a business. The Nexus must act in its own best interests, as I act in my own best interests. I'm producing YouTube videos, and I'm making a video speaking out against a person who took down a video. My own best interests at heart. Let's go over really quick the Nexus page for the floating market again. It's hidden, right? Previously, it was hidden where the reason given by the author. The mod is hidden until the drama dies down. So, let's address this top thing right here. Okay, so sending people death threats is not okay. Nobody should do that. Nor should anyone harass somebody else. However, at the same time, people need to be accountable for their words and deeds. In other words, we should never forget what this mod author has done until the drama dies down. I intend on reminding people about this, but at the same time, no death threats. Seriously. Let's continue reading. I think that if YouTubers cared about the modding community, they would ask first and discuss what they want to show in the mod. This demonstrates the lack of understanding of how a review show works and the whole idea of review itself. You don't have an obligation to work with the author of a product. And yes, it's a product. It's a free product, but it's a product nonetheless. And if you want to assert your own intellectual property rights upon it, it must be thought of as such. Now, let's see. Let's continue reading. For instance, the YouTubers that had their videos taken down completely glossed over the leveled tiered list in this mod, what the baked food actually does, the lost and found, the children's items, the custom furred armors. The only thing was diabetes and a fuck ton of books. Okay, well that really doesn't show my mod's contents. So in other words, this mod author is showing off a very entitled view, where what she wants is the mod to be shown in a very particular way. She wants you to focus on the things she wants. She doesn't want you to view it on a surface level, which is what the average person who views this mod is going to do. The level of detail that you put into this mod is not necessarily going to be viewed by the end user. The end user looks at it and goes, haha, this is fun. Okay, goodbye. And that's how gamers typically work. I think that if you had felt it was an inadequate view of your mod, you should have reviewed it yourself and showcased it yourself. Again, this just reeks of you disagreeing with how it was reviewed. And you don't have that right. Reviewers review things how they want, and you can then rebuttal those. But your rebuttal here, in this text, doesn't give you the right to take down a video, which is clearly a review. So, let's continue. Many I've noticed outright lie about a mod's content. Outright lie about a mod's content. Interesting. Interesting. So, what place does a YouTube video have in the modding community? Little to none in the way that matters, sad face. It's called publicity. Having your mod shared to the maximum amount of people possible. Showcases and propping up a mod means that it can be used by the maximum amount of people possible. You say little to none in the way that matters, that's your sensibilities clashing with what other people want. Because other mod authors put freaking reviews on their main mod page, like, hey, is this mod description not good enough? Check out this MxR video, check out this video, check out... They will put 4 to 6 videos on their Nexus page. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because they are proud of it being showcased. Are you ashamed of your mod? Do you feel like your mod can only be experienced by actually downloading it? I don't know. I don't know, but it sounds that way. That's the way this reads to me. Every single thing about the mod is in the front page. I do understand reading can be difficult with people that... In other words, you want to avoid it being spoiled, and you want to have the you want to control the message, control the narrative. That's not how it works. You don't control the flow of information. Information is free on the internet. It flows back and forth. Now, let's continue. I want, in some respect, for mod authors out there, some like YouTube, some don't. I do not believe YouTube is a service if the video in question does not portray the mod properly or has misinformation. Well then, rebuttal it. While it is interesting to think people using YouTube get an idea of the mods out there, coming to our mod pages asking us questions will give us a better service. Other mod authors add their input, and that kind of interaction going to aid your mod experience and the decision if you want to download. Okay, so this is painful. Now, I agree that if someone completely misrepresented the mod, And I mean completely misrepresented it to where they actually said, this is the worst mod in the world, all the clothes in it are slutty, and it has whores wandering the halls of the floating market. If I had said that in a review, and I had more or less showed it off as maybe a sex mod or something like that, then I could understand why you would be legitimately pissed. But you just don't like the way it was reviewed. You don't agree with the actual review. You don't think it was thorough enough, and because of that, you're passing judgment. And you're saying that because you don't like it, that it shouldn't exist. But, oh, no, we should totally go and... we should totally go and find specific people who really want their mods showcased, and only go to them. So let's not review a Call of Duty game. Let's only review indie games, because the indie games want them covered, but EA and Ubisoft and all those people, they don't want their games covered. They just want to sell them based on the brand name. So we should respect that. That's not how it works. Reviews protect consumers, or in this case, downloaders, from mods that may not contain the kind of content they want. It's possible the Nexus page lied to them, and that showcasing the mod in a video contains information that is more accurate than your mod page. Perhaps the mod is damaging in some way and causes problems. The video could address that. There's all kinds of things that reviews address, that there's a reason why we seek out information that does not come from the author. And it does pertain to products, be them free or not. So in this part, she goes on about a mod user who provided a 45-minute YouTube video which showed problems, asking for feedback, you know, things of that nature. And that really went nowhere. That was just a different kind of review. And you agree with that review, but you disagree with a showcase. That's really silly. Okay, so you would love nothing more than to meet and chat with thousands of people, uniquely download the mod, but chose to stay quiet. What happened with their experience? Is there a bug? Something wrong with the textures? Interference with another mod? So on. Honest opinions mean more to you than 1 million YouTube positive viewings. Well, of course. Personal interaction is a good thing. Why do you think I tell people in every video I make to please leave a comment? It's because I find value in those comments, obviously. It also boosts the engagement score, which makes my videos' advertisements value slightly higher, but mostly it's for the actual engagement, you know, being able to hear what people have to say on matters. So that was the first time the mod was taken down. Let's follow this up. This is the second one. I've received the death threats. I'm going to keep the mod hidden until the drama dies down. Again, I need to speak out on this because this is something where the conversation shouldn't die out. The conversation needs to be brought up again. People need to talk about this and remember exactly what happened here and why this should never happen again. Death threats are not okay. Harassment is not okay, but at the same time, we need to remember and not forget. So, the mod author clarifies, none of the assets were used without permission. Correct. People were speculating because the mod used other mod authors' assets that they were somehow used without permission. The reality is that the mod authors all gave these mods with permission. So, part 1A. Part of my permissions and the install process all say that by downloading this, you agree to the terms and permissions. I have stated very clearly 3 locations of these terms and permissions. If a user does not agree, they do not have to download. These ones, which we discussed earlier, and are likely in violation of fair use. Afterward would likely be stricken and deemed unenforceable. So I have no ill will toward MxR, I still don't. What I'm boggling about is the needless drama. I was under the impression when he spoke under oath, we settled order court, which the judge signed. That would be the end of it. From the tone in the conversation, he remained respectful, so you are fairly shocked at the amount of vitriol spewed your way. You do realize that when you're in court, You have to suppress your emotions, and you have to speak with respect because you're in front of a judge, someone who determines your fate. MxR was trapped. From what I understand, you put an injunction against his livelihood. That's not good. He wasn't respecting you. He was respecting the amount of power you had over him. He was gritting his teeth and bearing it. You're shocked that he was angry and that he allowed a little bit of that anger, a tiny speck of that anger to get out? Do you understand that by holding his livelihood hostage, by making a man who feels fairly large about, and good about himself, you realize how much of a blow to his ego that must have been? I've seen murders. Human beings taking the lives of other human beings for less. MxR, thankfully, appears to be an extremely well-balanced individual who let out a teeny little bit of anger, just a teeny little bit of anger, and also explained why his video didn't come back. The fact he didn't get into any big details says he was holding a shit ton back, considering I'm making this video now talking about it. I think he had a great amount of restraint. So, number 3, I went to lawyers and first and foremost see if I had a case. After providing them the information there within, this case went beyond fair use. While I understand what people want it to mean, it's not the only issue. You then asked YouTube if you'd be allowed to remove the person's content and put it back up if they said yes, of course. So I asked the content be removed and the video to stay. That was denied by a 2-week silence. It was given a counter notice. So my lawyers and I worked over the weekend to see if they had a case. All right, so number 3. She went to her lawyer. She saw if she had a case. After providing information there within, it went beyond fair use. Probably due to the aforementioned license agreement. And, of course, the counts of stealing assets, which, again, like, if she actually did work with a lawyer, I am shocked that that lawyer didn't... did the lawyer not have the full information? I'm kind of reeling at this, like... I mean, did they count on MxR not having a valid defense? Because there's something missing here. There's something we haven't been told. And that's the main reason why I didn't talk about this before, is because there's a lot we haven't been told. But yeah, she worked over the weekend to have the case ready. She tried one more time to contact MxR, settle it privately without drama or fuss. But we need to discuss this because this is a lawsuit. Because again, this is a lawsuit that happened over a mod. This is a big deal. It said Jim Sterling was sued over libel and not fair use in his case. Yeah, Jim Sterling's case had nothing to do with it. So point 3A, absolutely valid. No. Libel and versus 16 counts of stolen assets, huge different thing. Never wanted her mod showcased because she wanted to stand on its own merit, not on the word of others. Is that not your prerogative? No, it's not. You can't deny something be reviewed. You can't. That's just not how it works. You're trying to suppress information. There's a reason why you were accused of stealing assets, in your number 1. That's because you drew attention to yourself by trying to suppress information about the mod in the first place. Because why would she not want anyone to see the mod? Oh, she must be hiding something. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the average stupid person's conclusion. And that's why your number 1 became a number 1. Why you had to tell everyone that, yes, you had permission. And I don't doubt you had permission. I don't doubt it, because the community is really good when it wants to work together. Not wanting your mod showcased is lunacy. And trying to sue someone for showcasing it is double lunacy. I'm sorry, but your way of thinking is not compatible with mine. I don't think that we could come to a meeting of the minds, you and me. I think our perspectives are far too different. Mentioned making a video with another person because two people reached out about how videos help them know what mods are out there because of learning disabilities. They have a hard time reading long descriptions. Yes. You know, sometimes you think it's just laziness where people go, TLDR, didn't read. No. Sometimes with certain people, they will try to focus on words. Sometimes boil it down to dyslexia, but other times it's actually serious. Like where they'll focus on words, and by about the second paragraph of reading words, their eye starts to lose focus and their vision trembles and they just can't read anymore. I know that's happened to several people. I've had it described in detail to me, this inability to read for long periods of time, by a person I actually consider to be a very close friend. So, you do not believe that every and all mod authors should withhold their content from people who want to show it on YouTube, but is it so hard to ask the mod author first? Again, do you ask Ubisoft if you're going to review one of their games? You don't need to ask a person to review their content. Review is review. Now, your content is a product, whether you like it or not, whether you pay for it or not. A mod, I'm not saying your mod, but a mod has the potential to be a waste of the downloader's time. It has a potential to damage their computer. It has the potential to be stupid. It has a potential to be inherently flawed. These are all things that when a showcase simply kind of glosses over the mod, the thing you say is a bad thing, that's an affirmation that, hey, this mod's probably really good, I should go check it out. And they do not need your permission to do that. I am greatly distressed at the fact that you went to lawyers and the lawyers didn't tell you that there was potentially something wrong with your lawsuit, that you had a chance of winning. I find greatly distressing. I also want to know if all the authors who contributed to this package, all of them, agreed to this lawsuit. I'm generally concerned about this and what this means for the modding community. Not only for my self-interest as a person who makes YouTube videos, but as a fence sitter on the whole cathedral versus parlor modding situation. It's disturbing. In addition, we have Arthmore, one of my favorite mod authors. Favorite mod authors. But he has been crusading for mod authors' rights for a while, at least on Reddit, trying to explain why this is valid. And yeah, it's kind of the idea of, I don't hate your work, but I disagree with what you say. Now, this isn't going to be the last time that a EULA is put in dispute. This isn't going to be the last time that a software developer comes to a head against a reviewer. This isn't going to be the last time. But because this was settled out of court, it means that no legal precedent has been set. And that means we are long overdue for getting that precedent set in place. I really hope I'm not the one to set that precedent, but yeah, I just can't sit by and watch this shit happen. This is really, really bad. An injunction against a YouTuber's channel, cutting off their source of income. Did this actually happen or not? Cutting off their source of income, their ability to defend themselves, and then going and being like, hey, well, they can't defend themselves, we'll sue them. I'm really hoping that this didn't happen as I think it did. I'm really hoping that I am wrong, but I don't think that's the case. I'm just really hoping there's a big piece to this puzzle that perhaps flew over my head, because it seems like we've got a crusade within the parlor modding community to restrict what other people can do with mods, to control them instead of open them up and expand what the community can do. Instead of growing the community, it looks like pettiness is going to take over instead. Now, before I go, I want to clear up a couple misconceptions. Okay, so there's a very, very common misconception. And I want to nip this in the bud before the comments section gets a hold of it. That is that all mod authors' mods belong to Bethesda. This is not true. As far forward as Fallout 4, I actually believed that, but it turns out after an in-depth reading of the EULA, going all the way back to Morrowind, by the way, that when you make a mod with the creation kit, the mod is actually owned by you. I know it sounds weird, like, wait a second, but it's their tool, right? With their assets. Well, it turns out that Bethesda actually gives you your rights to it back as a part of the EULA. You retain the right to anything you make in the creation kit. In exchange, however, Bethesda gets an unlimited use license. They get to use it anywhere, anytime they want, for as long as they want. That's their right. Now, that can be perceived as ownership, but it is not the same thing as legal ownership. And it's a big difference. So when you make something in the creation kit, it belongs to you, provided the assets belong to you. Now, a hodgepodge like this is very questionable. Very questionable. We have no idea who actually owns a mod like this. The floating market, that is. And what kind of legal case that, like, what would happen in an actual court if we said that we own the mod that I made using the assets of other people. Can I sue on behalf of those other people? Or is it I'm suing on behalf of my completed package using parts of their... You see, it's up in the air right now. You have to sit in front of a lawyer, and very likely multiple lawyers would have multiple interpretations of this. And their argument in court would be very interesting to see play out. But a big reason I wanted to discuss this is because now some mod authors are planning to do pop-up in-game license agreements that you have to acknowledge to or get booted to the main menu for Skyrim Special Edition, and Fallout 4. Yeah, apparently this is a thing. Now, I'd like to remind everyone back when the paid mods system was getting started, and keep in mind that that was Bethesda's fault, not Valve's. And if you want to challenge that, go check out my previous video where I talk about Tinvok talking with dragons. Link will be in the pinned comment beneath the video, or in the video description, depending on how I get it set up. Anyway, my point is, during the paid mods fiasco, the author of Midas Magic, he had a free version of his mod, and then he had the gold version, and the gold version had brand new spells and stuff. Well, what happened is if you used the brand new stuff in the free version, it had like a 4% chance every time you casted the spell to pop up and say, buy the actual mod on the workshop. Like, wait, what? Are you freaking kidding me? Advertisements in Sky? Yes, it was that bad. On the Steam Workshop right now, you can get Midas Magic Pop-Up Edition. Congratulations, a Nigerian prince needs your help. So on, discover this one way a housewife turned iron into gold, alchemists hate her. You know, they're making fun of this. And I think it should be made fun of. So, if they end up getting this EULA framework going, I want to see a spoof mod on that pretty damn quick. So, in general, this has been my discussion on the Skyrim modding community in its current state. I needed to talk about the floating market author because, you know, let's face it, we read this, you know, where... we're waiting until the drama dies down. That is the last thing we want. We don't want it to die down. What we want to do is we want answers. We want this put out into the open so that we can actually discuss it. I'm very interested. I'm very, very interested to see what kind of legal precedent gets set here when this happens again. Because we've emboldened a whole subset of the modding community. This is something, it's going to come to a head, there's going to be another lawsuit, and we need to see what happens as a result of it. This has been Zarek Zahakaran. if possible, I'd like to hear what the mod author has to say about this, or what MxR has to say about this. I realize both of them probably want to just wave a wand and make this whole situation go away, but it happened. It happened, and it's not going to unhappen. So, do not harass the mod author. Do not threaten the mod author. But do, if you have some time, request some more information in a respectful way. I would very much like to cover this again on a lighter note. If there is perhaps some glaring omission that MxR perhaps did some extreme wrongdoing. I don't think that was the case. I've made my opinions known. This whole video is just a discussion. I'm talking here at the camera, and I want to hear in the comments what you guys have to think about this situation. About the mod author, about the floating market, about the 2 messages left behind, about Midas Magic's pop-ups relating to this mod authors are planning on putting in-game license agreements, or you'll be booted to the menu. I want to discuss this. Tell me what you guys think. Give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see y'all next time. Oh, check the links on screen for more content too. Bye-bye.